Hello and welcome to How to Build Armies for the High Elves. This video will teach you exactly how to build armies for the High Elves at every stage of the game. First things first, let's go through the overall strengths and weaknesses of the faction in battle. For the strengths, they have decent units in every category, with good units for the front lines, cav, flying, and particularly the ranged. They can also outrange most factions in the game and do extreme amounts of damage whilst doing it. And they also have one of the largest choices of magical laws in the game, meaning no matter which is your favourite, you'll probably be able to use it here. As for the weaknesses, however, their units become less effective as they lose HP. Of course, this is true for all factions, but for the High Elves, their martial prowess in particular means that when they lose HP, their effectiveness does take quite a hit. They can also be quite micro-intensive with all the ranged, flying, and cav. This is the downside of having a roster with decent units in every category. And finally, most ranged units aren't the best if caught in melee, so losing your backlines can mean losing the battle. Now let's get into our early game composition. For this, we have access to tier 0 units. These are the archmages of beasts, shadows, metal, light, heavens, fire, life, death, and high magic, the prince, princesses, spearmen, and archers, and tier 1 units, which are rangers and light armor archers. My early game composition, I'm going to be leading my army with an archmage of shadows. The lore of the shadows is a great lore for damage as well as having some nice utility. You might be wondering why I didn't go for fire, and you'll find out why very shortly. To start off with, this lord won't be the best since they don't have many powerful spells and can't fight in melee very well, but they will far surpass in power any other lord type once we get to the end. I'm also going to go with 4 spearmen and 6 rangers for my front lines. You can't go wrong with spearmen in the early game. They don't have great damage, but they are decent line holders, as well as having the defense versus charges and a small amount of anti-large damage. Rangers are a bit more of a damage front lines unit rather than the defense focused spears. They're also naturally quite spread out, so the enemy range will have a tougher time taking them out, meaning they are actually tougher and harder to take out than they look. For backlines, we're going to go with 9 light armor archers. They're just like normal archers, but have a bunch more armor. They can still do absurd damage over a massive range for this stage in the game, and they'll be getting almost all the kills in your early game bouts. Keep them safe using your front lines, and keep them firing until they can't no more, and hopefully by that time, you'll have won. If you're running low on cash, you can always go with non-light armor archers, but if it is no problem, then light armor archers are just that little bit better. The strengths of this composition, you're going to outrange basically any faction in the game. You also have a ton of front line that will take a long time for the enemy to get through, and the magical value right out the gate with a great lore. As for the weaknesses, however, if the enemy manages to get to your ranged units, your army is screwed, as the front line's damage really isn't the best. The Lord also cannot duel, so outside of focusing all your ranged units on a small Lord target, you don't have a good answer for Lord and heroes. Also, it's going to take the Lord a minute to come online and start helping in battles, so you basically don't have one for the first few. Moving on to the mid game now, for this we have access to tier 2 units. These are Lord and Sea Guard, Illyrian Reavers, Illyrian Reaver Archers, Great Eagles, and Nobles. And tier 3 units. Silvering Guard, Shadow Warriors, Lorvan Sea Guard with shields, Silver Helms, Shielded Silver Helms, War Lines of Crace, White Lines of Crace, Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, Tyrannok Chariots, and mages with the same lore choice as Archmages. My mid-game composition, I'm of course going to be still leading with the Archmage of Shadows. Should be getting a few more spells online now and contributing a lot more to the battle. Could also pick up a mount if you want, but I would say waiting for the final dragon is better to save yourself some skill points. We're going to go with a Mage of Fire here, and this is the reason that we didn't go for the Archmage of Fire. The Mages of Fire are the only mages that can ride a dragon as a mount, so we're taking one of these for the double dragon action. And of course the Lore of Fire is Pog, no need to explain that choice. For the front lines, we're upgrading to 6 Silvering Guard, which are super duper tough front lines units. Yes, they don't do a ton of damage, but we have other units to do that for us, so it's better to get a solid wall of steel. Just have them holding the line and get them support from missiles, magic, and you should be all good. Going to keep 6 of our light armor archers, just dropping 3 units to make room for some other stuff. Going to go with 4 War Lines of Crace to get some flanking online and take out enemy ranged units with ease and melt retreating units in the blink of an eye. Keep them on move and out of sustained combats, as they will go down fast versus anything that isn't super weak, and when you lose your big katos, you become very sado. And finally, closing us out, we have 2 Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. Of course, taking some of these, taking on large and small targets is a breeze, as you can switch ammo on the fly and deal great damage from a massive range, a brilliant unit all around. Strengths of this army, we're building on that massive ranged advantage, as we can now take on large targets as well as infantry. As long as you keep your back line safe, nothing on the enemy side will be. We also now have some flanking ability with the lines, so taking out any enemy range giving you trouble will be no problem. The front lines have also gotten even tougher, and we now have double the magical power and 2 of the best laws in the game. As for the weaknesses, if you get flanked, you are losing a lot of your army's power in one fell swoop, so keep your backlines safe. Your flanking units are also very vulnerable to getting pinned down and will fall extremely quickly. You still have no real answer for lords and heroes, so taking them out will definitely be a challenge. Finally, coming on to the late game composition. For this, we have access to tier 4 units, Sisters of Avalon, Handmaidens, Lion Chariots of Grace, Ithilmar Chariots, Sword Masters of Hoeth, Lord Masters of Hoeth, Flamespire Phoenixes, Frostheart Phoenixes, Moondragons and Sun Dragons, and tier 5 units, Arcane Phoenixes, Phoenix Guard, Dragon Princes, and the Star Dragon. The late game composition, of course, still got that Archmage of Shadows, should have the full spellbook by now, and be on the Dragon Mount for the perfect mix of magical support, while also having some fighting prowess on top of great mobility. Same story for the Mage of Fire, all the spells, Dragon Mount, epic times all round. For the front lines, we're upgrading to 2 Phoenix Guard and 4 Sword Masters of Hoeth. Phoenix Guard are the top tier anti-large infantry of the High Elves. Brilliant armor, great damage, and anything short of a train will get stopped by them and take a severe amount of damage for their troubles. The Swordmaster of Hoeth are the top of the line frontline's anti-infantry units that deal a ton of damage, and while they may not be the toughest, if you take out all the enemies before they can break your lines, that's as good as the lines being unbreakable. We're finally upgrading to 6 Sisters of Avalon for some of the best ranged infantry in the game. They have a ton of magical damage with armor piercing and a huge range. Literally, nothing is safe from their overpowered missile fire, so target them on the biggest threat you see and watch the fireworks. Gonna go with 2 Arcane Phoenixes, a couple of these guys rather than any dragons since we already have 2 of those with the casters, and Phoenixes are plenty good whilst being smaller targets, and they also have some neato abilities to ruin clumps and backlines alike. Have them take out enemy backlines alongside the dragons, and then come back to use their abilities wherever is needed most. And finally, we're going to add 2 more for a total of 4 Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. They're just so damn good and require little to no management, so get outstanding value. The strengths of this army composition, obviously a crazy amount of ranged firepower, whilst also having a very solid front line that deals a ton of damage. We also have 2 very strong casters on very powerful mounts, making them into brilliant hybrid units. As for the weaknesses, however, your 2 casters are now massive targets that are pretty impossible to miss. To take out your enemy ranged, or be prepared to have them constantly on the move. Flanking the enemy is also now high risk since it's expensive units and your lord and hero, so make sure they can get in and out safely or you will definitely feel the burn. And finally, the front line isn't as tanky as it could be, so if you don't manage to take out the enemy fast enough, they could break through and take out your ranged units. So focus on keeping them alive and taking out enemies as fast as possible. Now to close us out and show you how this army composition performs in battle, I'll pass you over to live commentary Miles. Take it away. Thank you very much for that, Miles. As you can see, of course, going against Empire, and of course, they bring some Hellstorm rocket batteries. One of the few units in the game that ranges the High Elves, so yeah, that's not fun. Feeling lots of pain, and also the 2 Luminax fire now focusing fire onto my Phoenixes as I move them up to try and take out the enemy ranged units. Phoenixes are going to initiate for us with those big Vortex abilities that I've definitely not forgotten the name of, and we're going to see a cast from our Archmage of Shadows very shortly with the Arcane Conduits providing the necessary winds of magic. Finally getting into range now, so all of my Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers are now using their anti-large projectiles to try and focus down the Demogryph Knight Halberdier since any of the Demogryph Knights are the biggest threat to us. Ooh, unfortunate breath there, didn't really hit much. Since if they get around to my, well, any of my ranged units, it's not going to be good for me. The Sisters of Avalon are now in range, so they'll be firing very, very shortly. Of course, going to still be focusing onto their cav and anything that is the highest threat to us. In the middle here, I'm pretty much just letting them fire whatever they want. So, yeah, Felix is in this battle. Welcome, Felix. How you doing, bud? But yes, he and the Great Swords are certainly feeling the burn. Now, some Demogryph Knights charging into my Phoenix Guard. Not the wisest choice there. They're doing some good damage. But once they get into sustained combat, yeah, look at them just get melted by the Phoenix Guard. And when they're getting shot by the Sisters of Avalon at the same time, not good whatsoever. I've now brought on my 2 casters and my Arcane Phoenixes to take out the enemy Hellstorm rocket batteries. The Luminax of Hysh are pretty bad for taking them out, but the Hellstorm rocket batteries are a much higher threat, so taking them out as soon as possible is my priority. Look, 60 and 78 kills on those. Definitely not good for me. Once they've done that, I believe they're going to get back into the sky and do some breath abilities and move back around to mess up the rest of the enemy. As you can see, 1 unit of Demogryph Knights is now broken into my backlines, so I'm now desperately trying to focus fire. 2 units of Sisters of Avalon, shortly to be 3, and a bunch of units of artillery to take these guys out before they reach my artillery lines. Will they make it? Oh, it's going to be close. They're just about breaking. Come on, break. Now, they did make the charge, but their leadership is generally tanking from the amount of fire that they have having rained upon them. There we go, minus 16, minus 2, and they're finally retreating. So we did take a nasty charge there, but we didn't actually lose any piece of artillery, which is the main thing. We also have a unit of artillery, not a unit of artillery, a unit of cav over there that's being focus fired, and hopefully he will not be coming back. As you can see in the back lines, we have now refocused. We've casted another beautiful Vortex ability. Wow, I wish I could speak onto this clump here, and we're going to have another one from my other Arcane Phoenix. I love that ability. It looks so damn cool. Now, we are taking some severe hits on all my flying units here, so we need to move them in very shortly onto those Luminarchs. The Sisters of Avalon, god, they are so good and so accurate, firing over their lines into their enemies and doing fantastic magical explosive armor-piercing damage. Wow, they are so overpowered. It's also flammable. Kind of forgot about that. Yeah, Sisters of Avalon, very, very balanced, I must say. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. Nordal Marinas over here. Yeah, not good for them. As you can see, a majority of my frontline units are actually breaking. The Phoenix Guard are alright, but 1, 2, 3 units of Swordmaster of Hearth have broken. This is the problem with them. They're not the tankiest. They have 90 armor and plenty of health, but they're just not the tankiest guys in the world, which is a bit unfortunate. That 36 melee defense really does make a difference when these guys are 40. It's not very good. It's 10% less, would you believe? Yes, that is how maths works. Some use of Demigryph Knight Halberdiers with 8 entities left and now desperately trying to charge ahead. And this is what's going to happen. A lot of their units now that my front lines are broken are going to charge ahead. And to be honest, all that it's done, my front lines being broken, is opened up this for me to fire straight into and take out the enemy greatswords. Now, on the back lines, the enemy artillery has all been taken out. Luminarchs of Hysh retreating from the battlefield. One of the Hellstorm rocket batteries is back in action, which I've definitely noticed, and I'm just sat there body blocking. No other thing is going on there, I promise you this. And I believe that is army losses. We've managed to take out enough of their army. How much have we taken out? Oh, plenty. And we have well over half, well, not over half, but we have nearly half of our army left. And the half that we have is the important things. It's all my lords, heroes, big boy phoenixes, and of course all my powerful ranged units. So things could have done better in this battle. Probably microed these guys a bit there. You know, they were just kind of stood from that Hellstorm rocket battery at the end, and there were a few other times where they were just kind of floating around. Probably a bit better use of spells. Weirdly, I didn't start with a lot of, oh my god, Winter Magic. Of course, we've got to take out the Caribou Greatswords. So, you know, there's literally just one guy left, so if we just kind of charged in. It feels bad for that guy. Where even is he? Oh, there he is. And he's gone. So yes, could have managed that better, and probably clumped my units up less. The Hellstorms got way too many kills. Way more than they should have right the initial volley. So if I'd spread my units out a little bit better, probably would have been alright. Maybe get some angles from my Sisters of Avalon. Save my Swordmaster of Hearth from death, because if you did this every single battle of the campaign, you would spend a lot of times doing some casualty replenishment. Now, moving on to the stats. First things first, the Archmage of Shadow, with 14,000 damage dealt and 2,400 nearly damage value. Of course, they were going for those high-value tags, the Hellstorm rocket batteries, the Luminarchs of Hysh, eventually the Lords and the Heroes, although the Lord didn't really seem to take that much damage, but he didn't really do anything either, so I will allow it. Getting on them Dragon Mounts is just, it's such a power spike, it is insane. The high elf power spike at the end game, we get Sisters of Avalon, we get the Lords and Heroes on Dragons, we get the Phoenixes, we get everything. We get the best front line in the world, well, in the high elf world at least, and it's such a power spike, and you can just see that, 14,000 damage, enough said. Similar story for the Firecaster, not as much because he didn't get that initial first cast that generated all that damage right out the gate. Still, 7,300 damage dealt and a nearly 1,800 damage value. Despite getting more kills, you know, damage value, it's a very fickle thing, isn't it? Not fickle thing, that isn't a word. So yes, exactly the same story there. The Swordmaster of Hearth, again, they're fighting against greatswords, so, you know, damage dealt, 5k, damage value, nearly 700, because they're just fighting against one unit of greatsword, so it's not the best. But picking up a ton of kills. These guys just mop up kills, especially if you get them against lesser infantry. They will do so much better. Of course, here they're against greatswords and halberdiers, which have a lot of armor. But if you put them against, like, they can probably beat, like, 5-on-1 against zombies or something, or skeleton warriors. They can do a serious amount of work. Of course, the Phoenix Guard will fight against more expensive units in the form of the cavalry. So they have a little bit more damage value in the in about the 900 range, which is very, very good there. Great unit, fantastic anti-large, fantastic armor. Honestly, if you're worried about your front lines breaking, you could just take 6 Phoenix Guard. But I just like to take some variety, and I like to have my, you know, anti-large on the outside and then my anti-infantry in the middle. It just makes me happy. Of course, Sisters of Avalon, do I really need to talk about these guys? The damage value they do, the damage they deal is absolutely insane. Anything and everything is a target to them, and they will decimate. So, you know, seeing up to, oh god, my voice is down. Seeing up to 1,300 nearly damage with them, not even slightly surprising. If there was more high-value tags, like if they had any large monsters, say you go in against the Dark Elves, and you want to target their Hydras and Charybdises, they will do outstanding amounts of damage to large single entities like that, and the damage value they will get is astronomical. So, yes, Sisters of Avalon, great unit, but you don't need me to tell you that because everyone already knows it. Arcane Phoenixes, going to be similar story to the Lord and Hero here. Got into the back line, took out high value targets whilst also doing some nice area damage with their abilities. So 1,600 damage value there. 16, wow, is that exactly the same? Wow, it is. I've never seen that before. But even having less kill, wow, that is very interesting. I love that. But yes, there's nothing else I can really say. You could go for dragons if you're really desperate, but I think it's just too many large hitboxes and it's too many breath abilities. Whereas these guys, it's Vortex, a little bit different. It's much better on a clump if you ask me, because the breath abilities will just hit a few units and you know that'll be it. But the vortexes, get that in another clump, they are desperately going to start feeling the burn, and they're just nice. They look cool, don't they? And it's a bit of variety, so you know that's always fun. And finally, wrapping up with the Eagle Claw bolt throwers. As you can see, not the most kills, not the most damage value on a lot of them. They were basically just trying to focus down these Demogryph Knight halberds. If you didn't want to take any artillery, you could probably just bump up 2 units of Sisters of Avalon, then 2 more units Phoenix Guard, or 2 more units of Arcane Phoenixes. But I just like to take these artillery units because they're just so good against pretty much everything. You know, if the enemy was bringing a whole swarm of infantry, switch on to anti-infantry and watch them shred. If the enemy brought a bunch of monsters, you know, like the Charybdises that we just talked about, then focus fire on them and they'll do great damage. They're a fantastic unit. Even if they didn't get many kills in this battle, in your campaign battles, they will probably end up getting a lot more on the variety of units that you are facing. But yes, that does just about wrap up everything that I have to say on how to build high elf armies. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my army composition. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this. Be sure to check out COLONELDAMNEDERS.store. I've got the brand new Christmas sweater merch on sale until the end of the year, so if you want one, then definitely be sure to check it out before it runs out. And also use code FESTAG2021 to get 10% off store-wide. If you want to support the channel in a direct way, then consider becoming a member on YouTube, a patron on Patreon, or a subscriber on Twitch. Doing so gets you shout-outs like Itchy Boy LC for their support at the Unclean Ones tier. Thank you to all supporters, thank you for watching, and for now, I've been Colonel Damneders, and I will see you next turn.